All right. Well, welcome to Gays Anonymous. This is A. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 4. I will figure out after we talk what to name this episode. But I have a wonderful guest with me who I'm going to call M. So, M, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I always tell people before we get started, give Gays Anonymous Pod a follow on Instagram, share this with your friends, or submit a question if you'd like to gaysanonymous224@gmail.com. Yes, you may not be anonymous, but I don't know, maybe you can create an email for yourself. I have no idea. But if you really want to be anonymous, you could do that. Let me know if you have any questions as I go through something. If you feel like you've had a similar experience or want me to talk about something or just have a question for me, submit it. DM me on Instagram. That's what the kids are doing these days, right? All right. Well, let's get into it. So, M, why don't you start off by telling me what brings you to the podcast?
Well, I have listened to some of the episodes, and I just think it's really good what you're doing, and I want to be a part of it, and maybe share some insight of my experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
My crazy life.
Love it.
Yeah. I just thought it'd be cool to be a part of it. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you. And I'm excited to see what you think of some of these questions too. It's always interesting to hear different people's perspectives. So I'm excited. Anything else you want to say about whether it's how you identify pronouns, anything of that nature before we get into things so that people maybe understand what lens you're coming from? If you're comfortable, of course.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I identify as non-binary, and I would say I fall on the queer spectrum. Yeah, I mean, that's taken me up to this point in my life. It's been a journey figuring all of that out, but
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now in my life and how I feel most comfortable identifying.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I think I've mentioned this previously in the podcast, but just so people are aware as we get into the questions here, also identify as non-binary. And I currently identify as a lesbian. We've had conversations. That's a ever-changing, ever-evolving thing that I think, like you said it perfectly, it takes time to get to, and then takes time, even as you're there, kind of figuring that out. So, yeah, I could have a whole episode about that just in and of itself. So maybe have to have you back and we could just talk about that for an hour and a half. Oh man.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and get right into the questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first question, I think let's start off with something that's a little, at least I found it to be kind of funny. So the first question is, I've heard the term U-Haul lesbians a lot. What does this mean, and what is the deeper meaning of this phenomenon, if you will? Why do gay people often, quote, U-Haul it? And do you think it's a positive or a negative?
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this.
Ooh,
I've
okay.
experienced it for sure. And I've seen others experience it. I think that's such a tough one because I think it's easy to get caught up in things and get excited and like the start of a relationship and just want to spend all the time that you have with another person.
Every waking moment.
Yeah, you know what would be a great idea? Moving in together.
Oh.
Not always a great idea. I would actually probably now go back to my younger self and be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So but I do think it works for some people. I know couples who did U-Haul and it's worked out for them. So I think it's possible. I think it's not a bad thing. It just can be a complicated thing that could turn into a bad thing. But I don't know. It's for me, I'm trying not to do that again. So, but that's just a personal thing to me. I'd like to not,
yeah,
and jump into things. quite as quick as I have. But I don't know if I answered the question. I hope I
I think
did.
you did. I think I guess for the baby gays and folks that maybe don't know, the term U-Haul comes from this
Oh,
idea that,
yes.
you know, lesbians specifically end up moving in together, and so it's kind of this whole thing like you see a U-Haul and it's like, "Oh, yep, there's a lesbian couple getting ready to move in after, 2 weeks, 2 months, what have
The
you."
the
So,
second date.
yeah, it's an ongoing second to
Yeah.
third date that then becomes
Yes.
you moving in with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that means. I think the deeper meaning, maybe like a financial thing of it's, you start to date somebody and you're
Mhm.
like, it kind of makes sense that we move in together because, then you're splitting rent. It feels like a financial thing now, but previously, I think it was just kind of that idea. You kind of get infatuated with someone and you want to spend every waking second with them. And I also don't quite know where that comes from. And I wonder if that's just, I guess maybe for me, it's this sense of feeling extremely comfortable with this person. And so that doesn't seem such a stretch of an idea. Like, I guess thinking about my previous relationships, like, because I have U-Hauled. And so it makes sense in the moment to just have the person living on top of you. I don't know how to describe that any
Absolutely. Yeah.
better. It's just like you get to a point where you're like, we could live together. We could have a cat together. That's fine.
Yeah. And that point could be like 2 months into the relationship.
Right, right. Is it the best idea? No, it's not. Do I think it works for some people,
No.
like you said? Yes. From my previous experience, I would say that because I think we waited 6 months and I really enjoyed living with that person. Looking back, and I think we both thought this too, looking back, we did not talk about the things that you would need to talk about to successfully live with another person. Whether you're lesbian, gay, any part of the LGBTQIA spectrum, even the straights, you should be talking about, the responsibilities, things that expectations. Are you clean? Are you dirty? Do you want the other person to be helping you make the bed? Do you want the other person to be doing the dishes? What does that look like? You should
Yeah.
be having those
Absolutely.
conversations before. Maybe some U-Haul lesbians are, but maybe the idea that it's
Maybe.
happening 2 weeks to 2 months into the relationship, you're probably not having those. And maybe
Probably
I'm
not.
assuming, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Like you said, and it also could, there's different reasons why you move in with someone.
Right.
So, like you said, it could be a financial thing where it has to be a quick decision, and maybe you don't talk about those things until you're in it,
In it.
and it's not too late, but instead of talking about it beforehand, which would be the preferred way to do it, is you're 4 months in and you're like, well, how do I bring up this? That even with like household chores, just trying to figure out, would you rather do the dishes or would you rather do laundry, or just figuring out how to, like you said, cohabitate,
Mm-hmm.
figuring that out as you're doing it instead of maybe just having a discussion before, which is definitely, I feel like it would be better
Yeah.
to try to plan that out better, but it doesn't always work out that way.
It's true. It doesn't always work out that way. Yeah. I like what you said though, because there are,
It definitely did not work out that way for me.
yeah. I don't, did you want to,
Mine was a
yeah.
yeah. Well, I've told you a little bit about some of my past relationships, and the one that where I did live with someone, and that was very much of, we'll figure it out along the way, and not a, let's talk about this now
Mm-hmm.
and what we're getting into, because that was honestly probably a couple months into the relationship, and I
Okay.
had already had a place. So she just slowly started moving and then fully moved in. Still
Starts with the
within
toothbrush, starts with
three,
the,
4 months of,
yeah.
yeah. But again, there was no, I don't remember there being like a real conversation about what that meant. I think we were both just kind of, you know, going with what we were feeling. It's great. It feels great at the time, but then, yeah, there might be. some issues that come up along the way because of that. But yeah, that was. I mean, I could definitely go on with just how gosh, no relationships, man. There's something.
There's something.
That one was a big one for me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, moving in with someone and spending time with someone and trying to figure out like yes, I want to spend time with them, but I also need and want my own space, and trying to navigate that is even a whole other thing. And how do you that would be one of the things that now I would bring up before moving with someone's like, you know, how do you navigate your downtime and your space? What do you do for you to like um unwind and just kind of do things like with yourself, and instead of just being with that person, because everyone needs their own time and space. And because I've definitely learned that the hard way, that um, if you are around your partner all the time, it can take a toll on the relationship.
Definitely. My follow-up question for you, is so then do you think it's a positive or negative thing, this kind of idea of U-hauling?
I just feel like it depends on. There's just different factors because everyone's different. Everyone handles things differently. Um, and sometimes even in a relationship, you're in two different places. Again, you would want to talk about before moving in. Really, it's just like where you're both at personally as well as in the relationship. The reasons why you're moving in together. Are you moving in together because you are planning on sharing your life with this person,
Right.
or is it because of solely because of, I shouldn't say solely, but financially, what your the reasons, basically just the reasons why. And I don't know, I think like I said, it could be positive or negative. It depends on as individuals and as well as just being partners with each other, what your goals are, what that can lead to. It
Yeah.
just depends on you as an individual as well as you in your partnership.
Right. This brings me to, I think, what every single question ends up becoming, which is communication is key.
Absolutely.
When it comes to this being a positive or negative thing, I think you're completely right. I think it can be positive and it can be negative. I think the two factors that come to mind specifically is the communication piece, which is honestly kind of talk it to death, right? What is this going to look like for us? Why are we doing this? What does this mean for both of us? You know, even having conversations maybe about who's going to have the apartment if something bad happens. Things happen. And so just having that open communication, I think is huge. I think the other thing, kind of going along what you said, is the why are we doing this? If this is just for a financial thing, I don't think you should be doing that. If it's just for
Yeah,
finances, yes, I know everybody's place that they're at is different. But I think if you're moving in with somebody that you're in a relationship with just based on that external factor, then that's a deeper conversation, and I think you gotta wait. Um, but I mean, like you said, I think that there's so many other factors to that, and I think that could play, especially now, could play a role. But I think that then just comes back down to all the communication in the world to be talking about, why it might be a good financial decision to do it, and then going from there. But yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. Good old U-Haul lesbians. We love them.
oh yeah. I mean, it's a cliche for a reason,
Yeah,
like it happens.
it does happen. Should we go on to question number two?
Let's do it.
Okay, this one we're really switching gears here. Bit more serious. What do you wish the first person you came out to would have said to you?
I, well, I can't remember the very first person that I ever came out to. I don't remember who that was in my life, but the first um, coming out for like to a parent, I do wish that that went a little bit better. You know, I and my coming out story I is not like fun and cute. It's was definitely it took a toll on um, myself and my relationship with my parent, both my parents. And I guess for me, I wish they would have said, "Hey, I love you. Um, I know you're scared, but we'll be here for you, and we'll figure it all out together." Like I just wish it would have went more like that than the way that it did. Because for me, I felt forced to come out, and it should never be like that.
Right.
Um, you should feel comfortable with who you're telling instead of feeling like you have to. For me, I just wish I had a little bit more support. And even though my parents have grown in so many ways and accept me more now than they ever had, there's still that kind of disconnect. It's hard to not go back to that.
Yeah.
I came out when I was 18 and
Hmm.
about 2 months away from graduating high school. I was like, I'm not going to come out. And I'm not going to come out, at least to my family, I'm not going to come out until, um, at least college, at least where I've been able to navigate some things, but it didn't work out that way. Yeah, looking back, I just would have been nice to just be like, "Hey, I'm here for you." Um, so that's kind of what I would have liked to have, and but now I have that with me, and so if anyone does come out to me, I can create a safer space for that person because I know what it feels like to be on the other side of it and like be just absolutely scared out of my mind and not feel safe. And it's not a good place to be. Um, so that would be what I would have wanted and what I want to like I said, I want to create a safe space for anyone and to be able to for them to feel comfortable to come out to me. And that's what I would have wanted.
First off, I just want to say I can't imagine those feelings having, sharing such a vulnerable thing with people and, hoping that the person on the other end is going to be supportive and it doesn't end up being that way. I think it's insanely incredible that then you're taking that into, knowing what I would have wanted. I am going to use that to create other safe spaces for people in your life. That's incredible, to say the very least. So I just want to say that first. And I think it definitely sounds like my coming out experience was very different than yours. And so I'm hopeful that we can talk a little bit more about it just as you feel comfortable. But I guess just to give you
Absolutely.
some preface into mine, I came out to my best friend first and felt incredibly supported. And that sort of idea of like, nothing's going to change, I remember very wholeheartedly from that person like saying, "This doesn't change anything. I'm happy you told me, but you're still you." I think that was a big thing for me when I felt like I was coming out to people. It was like, this doesn't change our relationship or our dynamic or who I am. It is just a part of who I am. And I think that was kind of the overarching theme for me in terms of coming out. And so when they said that to me, I think I felt incredibly supported. And my parents said very similar things, and other friends said very similar things, and my siblings all kind of said the same thing. Um, I felt very loved and very appreciative of the words that I think everybody said. And I feel very blessed to have had that experience. But going back to what you said, my experience feels like I don't hear that a lot, and I hear what you're talking about a lot more. And so I'd love to hear more if you feel comfortable of just like, how it felt when you came out, because I've never experienced that before and that not feeling supported. And so how you kind of navigated those feelings and what that looked like, and maybe even off of that, I know I'm asking a lot of questions here, but maybe what you'd say to somebody who is going through that similar experience and might be listening to this or is thinking about it and thinks that that could be their experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, I am really glad that you had the support. I think that's amazing. And there's a lot of people that do have that type of their coming out story was like that. That experience was overall positive instead of negative. So I'm really glad that that was your experience. I want that to be everyone's experience, but it doesn't always work out that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like I said, I came out right before I was going to college, so my main thing was finding the support and in other ways. Finding my people was a big thing for me. The friendships that I made, because those are some formative years. So
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
yeah. So some advice would be just find your people, find the
Mm,
people that support you and that you support, and find those people, and everything kind of it doesn't like everything doesn't go away. It's just like
mhm,
things click more in place, and you just feel like you're able to navigate it a little bit easier than without. And even just if you have the means to do so, there's plenty of books out there. If you have the means for therapy, and not everyone does,
mm,
but that can definitely help. Just talking to someone that, again, you just find your people that you feel comfortable around, people you feel safe with, and it will make things a lot easier for you if you have that comfort with them and you feel safe with them. Because that's what I did. So my coming out, yeah, it was just interesting because I felt like I had to come out more than once. Because initially, when I did come out as bisexual, and what I was still figuring that out. But when I had went into college, I was like, oh no, I'm a full gay. We're talking backwards hat, really leaning into it. Um, had no interest in cis men at all. I was just like, no. So I really just leaned into. I just went for it.
That's such a good point. If you're people listening, if you're ever wondering if someone's gay, it's a backwards hat for me. No. Sorry,
Flannel,
continue.
just all of the stereotypes you could think of.
Just kissing women in a flannel. No,
That could be a hint,
it could
you
be.
know. But it also might not be.
It,
Nowadays, you just never know.
you never
Like,
know. Renee Rapp said it best with the Pretty Girl song, you know? You never know.
um, yeah, I left for college and just kind of wanted to put that behind me, but it still kept coming up with with my parents. And actually, the fall before I left for college, so it was my senior year. My brother had actually came out. He chose to come out to my parents when it
Hmm.
was like, "This is how I'm gonna do it." And even though I've never even officially came out to my brother, we've never even really talked about it. But you know, and we're not even that close. But I was like, "I'm here right with you. I support you fully." And the way that went down was an insight. But I was like, "This is what's going to happen to me if when I choose to come out." And it was, yeah, it was not great for him. It was not a great situation. I never really I don't know if we've ever even really talked about how he was feeling after. And I always tried to make sure he knew that even though we weren't close, I still love him, and I still will always be there for him. And even if our parents aren't, that I would be there for him. And I never really asked him how he was feeling beyond that point and how he was dealing with it. And that's probably a conversation I would like to have now with him, and just kind of how he's they felt over the years with how our family handles both of our like identities and who we are, because it's tough. Like, family's tough. So reflecting now, that's a conversation I would like to have with him, and like, because I know it was not a good experience for him. Um, but yeah, now I'm just kind of wondering like how he was feeling and how he's felt all these years.
Hello, my lovely people. I just wanted to hop on here to let everybody know that this was the end of part 1 with my lovely guest. And now go ahead and hop on to part 2 to continue hearing a little bit more from M. Thanks, everybody.